Geography 507, Geography of the Global Economy, Module 15, Part 1. We're going to begin our discussion of how the global economy is being integrated above the national level. We're going to start with a discussion in our first module of how the geopolitics really start to change after World War II, setting the stage for requiring integration if national governments are to maintain some form of control. Okay, after World War II, the capitalist economy is going to get reorganized as a more open system. For this to happen, we need an orderly and secure capitalist system, something peaceful and secure from outside threats. Now, that's not going to be easy because we've got the Cold War underway. Today we continue to see North Korea and ISIS. But in order for this open system, we need, again, an orderly and secure capitalist world. We also need leadership for establishing a stable currency exchange mechanism. And this, for the most part, is going to take place through the Bretton Woods Agreement and the gold exchange standard that runs from post-war to about 71. And lastly, we need to have some way to ensure access to world markets. Now, early post-World War II, the United States is the only country that could impose a military order because it did not suffer the damage that other major players had suffered through the war. The only country economically strong enough to impose economic order on the system, or on a parcel system. Our socialist states, we know the USSR, their dominance of Eastern Europe, the rise of China, the existence of North Korea, those all turned inward in an attempt to restructure their economy and society along different ideological lines. Now, in some ways, that existence becomes very important. Until we get the falling apart of the Soviet Empire in '89 and the dissolving in 1991, it really served to cause an ideological reaction. Strong feelings of anti-communism. Now, this not only provides an economic stimulus, but it provides political solidarity within the different core countries. So, in short, the world economy is going to be characterized by the economic and political superiority of the U.S. Under this U.S. dominance, the world economy in the 50s and 60s comes to be characterized by Fordism. Through Fordism, we know we link mass production and mass consumption. This will increasingly be done at an international scale. The boom is dependent on linking mass production and mass consumption. We need the mass expansion of world trade. We need the mass expansion of investment at the international level. Now, Fordism is going to get implanted in Europe through the Marshall Plan, for example, and the presence of U.S. Corporations helping to rebuild. It's going to get implanted in Japan through the post-war occupation and the rebuilding of Japan to give a capitalist ally in the Pacific. And all this bigness and integratedness really fosters the emergence of our multinational corporations. Now, as we add into this global production, global circulation systems, we're going to see multinationals find a way to respond in the short term to changes in money availability, cheap labor availability, resources availability. They're going to be able to tackle different consumer markets. They're going to be able to move and take advantage of location whenever it's profitable, whenever it's opportunistic. Multinationals could shift or redefine their objectives. They can respond to changing opportunities caused by the global economy. Now, this is something that's difficult for governments to do. Governments obviously only govern their own country, and they're not geared to rapid or short-term change. What this does is it's going to give greater economic interdependency, greater ties around the world, and at the same time reducing the relative political powers of countries. They're not going to have the ability to protect their own markets to the same extent because their markets are tied so much to other markets. When we get into the 70s, we're going to start to move into uncertainty, destabilization. This gets caused by a number of things we've talked about before. The oil crisis in 73, the combination of slowed productivity because of market saturation, growing government expenditure in social safety nets and environmental concerns, especially through the 60s when times were very economically rosy. All this creates national economic management problems. Problems that can't be solved without allowing inflation to rise, and really without the weakening of the US dollar as the international standard. So the US is going to struggle a bit here. It's going to struggle to keep its dominant position because things are becoming much more international. So we've got a bit of a loss of control. We're seeing rising trade deficits, instability in the US dollar, competitiveness with Japan and Western Europe and Germany. In your textbook, this gets called the crisis of capitalism or disorganized capitalism. The end result is we're going to see the emergence out of this crisis of industrial capitalism into a time that'll be a little different. In your book, they call it post-industrial capitalism or advanced capitalism. Now, we talked before about how this evolution was able to take place. It all begins with production, circulation, and organizational capabilities of multinational corporations. The ability for them to do different things around the world quickly. This has sped up decision making and really increased this idea of long distance operations. The increased scale, the sophistication, the interdependence of our growing global economy would not have been feasible without these new technologies and these new forms of organization. Now, one result has been the acceleration of the spatial shifts in the pattern of development. Greater economic interdependency combined with production system flexibility means more multinational corporations can take advantage of opportunities that exist somewhere in the short term. They've been able to quickly exploit mixes of resources and labor and market. So as a result, the changing economic geopolitical context, the whole logic of the world economy has changed. It's transcended the scale of countries in terms of operation level. That's going to be a control question. This is going to force governments to try to figure out how to operate as bigger dogs on the global scale. And we're going to see the joining together in some form of institutionalized integration. For example, we'll be talking later about what the European Union is about, or NAFTA, or, in more modern terms, Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, for national governments, this is not inherently a natural thing. Governments don't look to be similar to other countries. Statehood is based on being different and reinforcing those differences between countries. It looks to reinforce similarities within countries, establishing national markets or national labor forces or national monetary policy or national security, all the things that government can control, obviously at the national level. But the large increase in our international trade provides kind of a kick in the pants for countries to be drawn into some form of institutionalized integration to make them bigger. Now, for core countries, the objective is to protect your existing advantage. Being a part of international security, accessing bigger markets, looking for more open market access. For peripheral countries, the objective is going to be to try to limit or reduce dependency, perhaps by attracting more potential investment, perhaps through exploiting more labor. We have everybody trying to figure out how to make the best of this new situation.